All righty. Well, good morning, everyone. We are so glad to have you. And as you can see, my beautiful friend Lynne Franklin is with us today. So, hey, Lynne.
Hi. Oh, glad to be beautiful.
And yes, you are. And I love your stained glass window behind you. It's so pretty.
Well, and it's funny because I've been admiring your plant stand behind you with the lighted stained glass.
Oh, yeah. When we don't have our backgrounds, the Zoom backgrounds, you're like, oh, this is real.
Mhm.
Somebody's real space. So, anyway, well, let me ask you, are you having a heat wave there in Chicago?
It's funny because I've been saying, having grown up in Minnesota, I say we've been having more of a Minnesota winter because it gets really cold. It's been below freezing for, at least 2 weeks now.
Oh,
And but there are bright, clear days as opposed to most Chicago weather, which is it hovers around freezing or in the 20s. It usually doesn't get into single digits as much as it has this year, but it's just gray.
ugh,
And yeah, I like the cold, clear stuff better because I can be inside and pretend it's warmer out there than it really is.
absolutely. I know that feeling, Um, for the 10 months that I lived in Chicago, it was so great. I have to tell you, I just couldn't wait to leave there. It's like,
Mhm.
it really was, they say those gray skies, it really was true. And then the summer, I think the summer that we were there was one of the hottest summers that Chicago had
Mm.
had, and it was so hot and humid. It's like, Lord, why did you bring me here?
Well, and then the Lord brought you someplace else instead.
Yeah, yeah. So lots of different places for sure. So anyway, well, everyone, we are again. I'm so glad that you've chosen to spend your time with us this morning. And as you recall, Lynne has been our co-host on the first week of the month, and it's so fun. I always look forward to that first week when we can be back together again. And she has experienced a lot of heartache. I guess I don't know what other word, but a lot of pain over these last couple of years. And we were talking the other day. We are well, we are friends and accountability partners and all kinds of things for the last 10 or 12 years. I don't know. And it's just so fun as we talk about things. We get to share so much of our life, not just about our business. Matter of fact, sometimes I think mostly we talk about our lives and what we're going through and encouraging each other because life has its ups and downs, and you certainly have had a lot of those in this last 4 or 5 years. um, but I was so impressed as I was talking to her last week, um, the things that she was doing for others while I think I would have been curled up on my couch. I mean, I just um, so I'll let her
That I
explain
haven't been there.
it. So it's just so it was so inspiring. She wrote letters and cards to healthcare workers and stuff, and I'll let her share that with you because it meant so much to me. I said, you got to share this with other people because maybe others don't do that. I don't know that I really would have thought of that. I mean, some of the
Mm.
lovely things you did, and you still were doing your Meals on Wheels where you help on. Is it every Saturday or
Every other Saturday.
every
Mhm.
other Saturday? So anyway, just share with us a little bit, Lynn, about some of the things that you've done, and even if you want to just share some of the things that maybe people did for you that were helpful to you. I don't know. We're just
Mhm.
going to kind of let it go here.
Okay. Well, and what Delinda alluded to is in the last 5 years, I have lost every member of my family. They've all passed. And it became literally my job to help them pass easily. And on top of that, I also lost a dog. So, I've been in the world of focusing on others and caregiving and knowing that people were leaving at exactly the right time for them, that I would not have wished them another day in the condition that they were in,
Mhm.
because passing away meant they had literally gone to a better place and they were whole and with God and frankly with each other. And the latest occurrence happened on January 1st when my brother passed. And my brother had a stroke 22 years ago, which left his right side paralyzed, and he had aphasia, which is a brain injury, which meant that he could understand you when you spoke, and he knew what he wanted to say, but he couldn't always get the words out. So it wasn't that he had dementia or he was cognitively impaired. It was that he just could not speak easily. And he also last year developed cancer, and with a golf ball sized tumor in his brain and malignant melanoma throughout his body. So we got him through cancer treatment, and he was actually healing from that,
That's
uh, but
amazing.
was but was not able to. He did not have the reserves left to get out of the hospital. And once again, it's so. And he passed an hour before I was able to get to the hospital. And so I stood there with his body for about 2 hours, talking with him, talking to God, yelling, screaming, crying. And at one point, I looked at the whiteboard that they have in the bedrooms of all patients, and it had a section that said, my goal for the day. And somebody had written, because it was New Year's Day, have a happy New Year's. And of course, I was struck initially by the irony of that. And then I was struck by the truth of it, because Mark had gone to a better place where he was going to have a happy new year. Had he lived, it would have been a struggle for him. So I was grateful that he'd been released from the struggle. And at the same time, of course, like everybody, he was my brother, and he was my last living relative in my nuclear family. And now he was gone. And the sense of loss, I'm sure that all of you have encountered by losing a loved one, you know, two-legged or four-legged. And it's easy to focus on what I don't have anymore. I don't have my brother. I don't have this. I don't have that. I will never have more memories to make of him. And at the same time, this is also a time for healing, because I literally have spent the last 5 years primarily being a caregiver for my family. And some of it are my own issues of who am I if I'm not caring for other people? That's another conversation. But in the midst of all of this, I started thinking about all of the people who were there for my brother Mark, all of the doctors, all of the nurses. And I thought, I want to reach out to these people and thank them, because they made a difference in my brother's life. So I literally sat down a week ago and got out cards and hand wrote notes to each of his cancer doctors, his primary caregiver, his primary doctor, and also a vascular surgeon who had done surgery on him years ago, who probably didn't even know that he passed away, and told them what the work they had done meant to Mark and me. So, for example, the vascular surgeon, it was how getting blood flow to Mark's legs gave him many more years of comfort that he would not have had she not done this. And even the cancer doctors, although you've heard the phrase, yeah, the treatment was successful, but the patient died. That's exactly what happened here. And to think about how hard it must be for people who do this every day, all of these cancer doctors who see this stuff, and some patients pull through and some patients don't, and some treatments work and some don't. And I thought, I want to recognize their efforts. So I told them that because of the work that they did, Mark had one really good month, a month and a half before he passed, about how he was able to drive his 2010 red Corvette with his left hand and left foot, and do the things he wanted to do because of what they had done, and how grateful I was to them. And popped the letter, and I sat there and wept through every letter I wrote. And then pop them bless them and pop them in the mail, hoping that it would make a difference to the people who received them.
I just
And
think
I
that is so amazing, Lynn. I mean, when you told me the other day about that, I I don't know that I would have ever even thought of that. And now maybe some of y'all out there already you have that heart to do that, but just that's such a I mean, what a blessing to them. Because like you say, if they're in basically the life and death business all the time, that's got to be hard, just that stress of carrying that, and to get a card from someone, and particularly a handwritten card, which people don't even do that much anymore, to get that, and just that little blessing that they made a difference. I mean, just a wonderful thing.
And and obviously the doctors, that was an easy thing. I had to sell my brother's 2010 red Corvette, and and needed some help doing that, and ultimately went to a place called CarMax to do that. And they provided an estimate that was good for a week. And because my brother's car was owned in a trust, there were a bunch of different machinations we needed to do in order to sell it, and we could not get everything done within the 7 days that the estimate was good for. And I was afraid that they would take it back and offer me something lower. So I was working with somebody there. And although it did take longer than 7 days to get it all done, she made sure that it was the same price they had originally quoted. And so to her, I ended up, I had a conversation with her last week and said, who do I call to tell them what a great job you did? And she was a little bit startled. She said, well, you can always write a Yelp, something on Yelp. And I thought, yeah, but I want people who work with you to know that you did a great job. So she gave me the number to customer service, which happened to be in Atlanta, although she was in Tucson. And so what ended up happening is I called the number, and I'm speaking to somebody in customer service there, and said, I just want to tell you what a great job Kayla at the Oracle Road, Tucson office did when I was selling my car. And let me tell you the story. So I told this woman the story. And at one point she said, people just never call and tell us this stuff. She said, I'm so used to people calling and complaining. And I thought, I'm sure you are, but I want you to know that you have a good employee. And because this was so unusual, an hour later, somebody else called me from customer service, kind of to verify that this was actually true. And, and I got the same message of, people don't call and thank us for things or tell us that we have good employees. And I said, you need to know this is a good woman. And, and what she went through for us. And because when somebody dies, so many things are hard. And she went the extra mile. And so they mentioned that they would put her name in the company newsletter and give her some recognition there, and they had their own internal reward system. And I did this knowing I'll never hear from this woman again, and I'll probably never work with her again because I'm unlikely to be selling another car in Tucson. But
Right.
yeah, put it out there, because there have been so many times when I was told, well, in order to get what you want upon your brother's death, you need to do this and this and this and this and this. And, and probably like many of you confronted with those situations, I have the eye roll of, oh, geez, it's hard enough when somebody dies and you're making it even harder. So for the people who make it easier, I wanted to let them know. And, and a lot of times when people are faced with somebody like me who is in grief, they don't know what to do to help.
Very good.
And a lot of times people will say, well, what can I do to help? And for the person who's grieving, you're so busy. I was so busy grieving, I had nothing to give them.
Not even an
And
answer.
no, so there was nothing I could tell them. And yeah, and so I've been paying attention to this because I have experienced loss a lot recently, and thinking about what's the best way when I'm confronted with somebody who's in that situation, what do I do? And because most of us default to, I'm so sorry for your loss. And, and what that tells you is, I'm sorry for your loss. So it makes it all about me. And I thought, when I'm dealing with somebody in grief, I don't want to make it about me. I want to make it about them. And the best line I've come up with that I use is, this is so hard. To be able to recognize the difficulty that they are in, to see them and acknowledge that this is difficult for people, and to be able then to listen to them tell me about how difficult it is. So to give them the listening and the caring ear, that's really important. Because there isn't anything you can do. You can't change anybody's death. You can't change all the rigmarole. I call it the mundane minutia you have to go through when somebody passes or when somebody's in difficulty. All you can do is recognize who they are and what they're going through. And mostly to not stand there and say, well, and I lost my brother or I lost my mother, and then tell me all about your lost story. It's funny because once again, that takes the focus off of the person who's grieving and makes it all about me if I'm telling you my story. So it becomes the only way that I can help people is to recognize this is hard for them and ask them to talk to me about it and give me whatever it is they have in that moment, because that's the biggest help, at least for me.
I love that. So can you take it one step further or farther, whichever one that is? So when you say to them, because I was writing that down, because I always listen and write things down when Lynne talks. She always gives great advice and communication. So when you say to them, this is so hard, kind of how do you follow that up to let them know you're willing to listen? Because I think
Okay, so
sometimes,
1 second. It looks like my dog has something
ah,
that he should not be having. Yeah, here's life for you. So hang on 1 second.
yeah. This is what live is, right? It's like this is live. We have interruptions. We have dogs. Y'all seen Gabby sometimes when she's come in and she's interrupting these kind of things. So Harley over there, he says, "Mom's not paying attention to me, so I'm gonna go shred some paper."
Yes, a lot of times animals can make things easier for you, and sometimes not so much.
Well, they are a nice bit of comic relief.
Yes, they are. Okay, so ask me your question again. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Dylan.
Well, so how do you let them know that you're willing to listen? So you said that, to say that you can say, this is so hard. What do you follow that up with to just let them know you're open to listening or whatever? This is so hard, la, 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 la.
Mhm. Well, and a lot of times it depends upon the person that you're speaking to, or the person that, for me, for example, for me, it was, people who post on Facebook, because there were so many people I needed to tell, and I didn't have the wherewithal to contact everybody. So, like a lot of people, I put stuff out on Facebook or social media to reach the most amount of people at one time. And so a lot of times I'll see other people do the same. And I will literally type down, type in, this is so hard. And, and I'm here caring about you. And if you want to talk, I'm here. So something to that. There are other people I can just say, this is so hard. And then because I know they will reach out to me and let me know what's going on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it
Okay.
depends upon the person. If they need another prompt, but not to ask them to do anything or be anything, or because the worst part, because I've encountered people who, when you're grieving, because they don't know what to do with your grief and it makes them feel uncomfortable, a lot of times people will shut you down, and it's the kind of the message that they send either verbally or through their body language is, get over it.
Oh, no.
And you are where you are. I call it riding the wave, because there are sometimes when you just want to swat your dog for pulling garbage out of your garbage chute. But part of it is because they feel uncomfortable with your grief, they need you to move on. It's about them. That's not about you. And I call this riding the wave. So whenever I feel like crying, I cry. Whenever I feel like, yelling, I yell. Because you never know where grief is going to hit you. I remember when my mother-in-law passed, and she was this lovely Italian lady, excellent cook. And one of her favorite things to make was, oh, she called it Moulin John. And, and the word for it is escaping me right now. Um, it's the purple. It's the purple vegetable.
Eggplant?
Yes, eggplant. So I used to get egg, I would stop by the farmer's market and get eggplant for my mother-in-law so that, fresh eggplant so that she could make it. And the first time I went to the farmer's market after she passed, I'm standing at the eggplant, bin
Oh,
crying because I'm not going to get eggplant for Betty anymore. And I'm sure I made a number of people feel uncomfortable, and it's not like I was making it, a big to do about it, but,
right.
tears are rolling down my face because emotions are really important. I grew up in a household that did not value them. So as an adult, my line forever has been, I'm usually not the most emotionally intelligent person in any given room, unless it's filled with my family. And so I value emotions and I now give them time that I did not used to give them when I was
Mhm.
younger. And so I value emotions in other people too. Just meet people where they are. And if they want to talk about stuff, let them talk and don't interrupt them. And and just be there for them if they look like they want their hand held or if they look like they need a hug, always ask first, can I give you a hug?
Oh,
Because some people don't feel comfortable with that stuff or don't feel comfortable in that moment. So always ask for physical
mhm.
contact and get their approval first before you do it. And all you can do for somebody in grief is be there. If they ask you to tell them about your grief, then go ahead and do it. But don't volunteer it. Don't take the focus off of them
Those
unless,
are
once again,
really,
they ask
really
for it.
good points. I mean, and I can see where that would be because part of it, you feel like, well, if you share yours, then you're somehow sharing the moment with them, which
Mhm,
is really not the case because it becomes all about you.
mhm,
But I'm glad you pointed that out. And I think, when you said ask for permission, I think that's important no matter what, whether it's in grief or not. I mean, even, most of the places I go happen to be with people that I'm very comfortable hugging and everything. But sometimes I'm meeting somebody new and you don't really know. Well, are they a hugger? Are they, especially, during the pandemic and when all that was going on, you are really well, just I guess it's only been about a year since it's now been a little bit more, open that you can kind of hug people. But I still found that during that time, it made me more conscious of it. So I do ask, like, you mind if I give you a hug? Or I'll
mhm,
make the like kind of thing like, how about a hug? And some, oh
mhm,
yeah, yeah, or that's like, oh, here they'll hand me their hand. Then it's like, oh, I'm glad I didn't, So I
mhm,
think that's a good point. Really, for any time, but particularly I would think when somebody is in grief, is someone they love has passed, and you don't know what place they're in. Are they right at the point of tears today, or is today a better day, or whatever that looks like for them.
mhm. Yeah, for me, that's the riding the wave thing. Be present to whatever emotions you have and express them if it's safe for you to do so. And if it's not, go find a spot where you can be on your own and express them there rather than stuff them. Because emotions are like mercury. You push them in one place, they're going to come out someplace else. And if you've been holding on to them for a bunch of years, as I did, then they have a tendency to come out, in some other unrelated situation and in an explosive way, far the, the velocity of them is much greater than what the situation that triggered them creates. So it
Mhm.
becomes, this is your own kind of mental health. This is taking care of yourself. And at the same time, I've said to friends of mine, I am so sick of my own story about being in grief here. Tell me your own. And then I will happily listen to the loss of their pet or the loss of their family member or the loss of an important friend to them, because then I can use another part of me who's a good listener for them too. but don't offer your story unless somebody asks for it.
That is great advice. That is great advice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me as a, you know, like you said, you may be getting tired of sharing your story, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Mainly because as I said the other day, I just think that is amazing that during that time when you're hurting so much and you're in such pain that you would be thinking of others. I mean, that's just such a blessing. So I'm gonna I'm gonna remember that. And actually, in general, if we just think about in general terms, that thing of reaching out and expressing gratitude to other people just as we go along every day. And we've talked about that a lot on the show because it is such an important thing. But sending cards out is, in a day when people only get advertising flyers and bills,
Mhm.
okay, let's get a happy card, uh, my birthday was just a couple of weeks ago and it was just so fun. I did get, several cards in the mail and it's like, okay. And then my friend and one of our gals, Karen Karen Hagan, she always sends out everybody's word of intention and just, getting the little card in the mail that she sends, it's just fun. So anytime we can do that, I would never have thought of it if you hadn't have said it during that kind of a time. And that I was telling Lynn the other day that the two physical therapists that took care of my mother when she was here were so excellent. And I told them thank you. As a matter of fact, I had called her a week or so ago to ask her a question about something. And again, thanked her for what she did. But it did not even occur to me to write just a note. That would be something she could save. And maybe when she's having a bad day, she pulls out, oh, I do make a difference to people. And then the whole CarMax gal, you went
Mhm.
above and beyond to find who to talk to that could make a difference. You never know, she might have gotten a raise for that.
Mhm.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, well, some kind of record, because we have all dealt with people who have not done a very good job,
Yeah.
and and we end up focusing on that, and I grouse just as much as anybody does when I'm in a situation like that. And so at the same time, it's the well, and the other thing that we haven't talked about is that to do that when I am in grief is also healing to me,
Hmm.
because it allows me to, yes, I'm grieving and I'm focusing on my own healing now. But when I'm able to, see beyond what's happening inside of me and look at the rest of the world and notice that people are being kind or doing something to help me or going above what I would have expected them to do, that it heals me to know that I'm not just thinking about me all the time, that I am present to other people and how they are doing their best to make my life easier, and to be grateful for that and to let them know that I'm grateful. One of the things I'm planning is a service for my brother, who years ago told me that he wanted to be cremated and have his ashes spread in Gates Pass, which is a saddle in the Tucson Mountains, at sunset, while I play the Rolling Stones song "Give Me Shelter." And so I thought about the timing of that and realized, because my brother had an excellent sense of humor, best time to do that is going to be April Fool's Day. And so I reached out to friends and said, this is what I'm planning on doing. And the number of people who said, I want to be there. Boy, that's just healing to you. Your friends and your family and the people you love and who love you, give them an in. You can't say, well, it could be that you could say, yeah, what I could really use is somebody to make dinner for me tonight, or send me carry out or something. If you can be that specific, your asking for help also helps them.
Oh,
But if you don't have it, as frankly for much of the time I didn't, to be able to, when you can figure out some way for people to help you, and then to ask, and to ask from a place because you know you need it, and you know they wish to be of service, they wish to help, it is a gift that gives both ways.
Mm. That's a great thought. Because I know there are so many times when I would really want to do something and I would do whatever, but have no clue what it is. And so if you were to say to me, yeah, bring me dinner or make me soup or something, you wouldn't probably ask me to cook. And of course, I'm not there, but the idea of whatever that is, I would so want to do it. So if somebody would actually tell me something that would make their day a little lighter would be such a blessing.
Mhm.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, and there were other points when my brother was ill and people would say, "What can I do to help?" And I'd say, just send him a card and don't send him a get well card. Yeah. And extra points in his case, if you find a car that has a red Corvette on it. And just a card to let him know he's being thought of, because his comment to me that triggered this was, I feel like I don't have any friends. It's like,
Aw.
well, you have all my friends. And so suddenly there was a flurry. He got this flurry of cards from people, many he didn't know, but to get a card from anybody that wishes you well,
Mhm.
you know, it can't help but brighten your day, or can't help brighten the day of a person who's in grief.
Mhm. Yeah, so those of us that, so when, so from both sides, if you're the person, that's grieving and somebody asks you and you can think of something that would maybe help, I can't get out today if it's a neighbor, could you just pick up something whenever you go to the store, pick this up for me or whatever. Just that little thing you think, well, that's not a big deal, but maybe to that person at that time it is, whatever somebody might ask for. Um, and yeah, I thought that was very cool. When you did mention the cards, I thought that was such a great
Mhm.
idea. So,
Yeah, or even I had a friend who said, "You're coming over to my house for, I could only get away for one night." She said, "Well, you're coming over to my house and I'm just going to mother you for a day." It's like, oh, that sounds so wonderful.
oh, wow, wow.
So just get out of the place I've been physically, and be someplace where somebody else was gonna ask me if I wanted stuff, or you know, could she get me a glass of water? Could she, cook dinner for me? It's like, you bet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there. We have a tendency to think we need to make grand gestures. We don't. We just need to help somebody feel seen and heard and cared about.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. Well, thank you so much. We are at the top of the hour. Thanks for coming on and sharing your heart with us. I mean, this is something we need to pay attention to, and I love you, and I
Right
appreciate
back
you
at you.
doing that. And all of you who are watching, I know we've had a number of our friends out there that have had relatives and friends pass in this last even 6 months or so. And so hopefully this will ease your heart a little bit to know that we really do want to do a better job. I want to be more aware and to know that, when that happens, that I maybe have the words to say, to just, you know, to be aware. And I think the biggest thing you've said a lot, is the fact of not making it about you. Don't, oh yeah, remember when this happened to me? No, let's not go down that road, unless they ask, as you said. So, and probably in general, that's a good rule when talking to anybody about anything. Let's not try
Mhm,
to make it all about us.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, the only exception I do is for people who have a difficult time expressing emotion, which happen to be like most members of my family. And so sometimes I would say, when if they were making a complaint or saying something or being in grief, I would name the emotion for them and give them a place to start. And so something like, if I were in that situation, I'd be feeling angry, or I'd be feeling sad. And a lot of times, because they have a hard time accessing their own emotions, to name something and they'll say, "Well, no, actually, I'm really feeling I'm really feeling guilty, or I'm really feeling this. So if I'm wrong, they tell me what it is they're really feeling. If my guess is right, then they will tell me more about their experience of it. So that's when I hold, for people who have a difficult time expressing emotions, but I know they need to get them out. And once we recognize an emotion, we stop fighting against it to pretend we're not feeling it. Oh, I'm not feeling sad. Oh, I'm not feeling angry. Or I'm not feeling frightened. And that's something, once again, I've learned for my own purposes, is that when I had trouble expressing emotions, if somebody gave me an emotion, I could react to that. So that's when an I thing can work for other people.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Well, because it does help draw it out of them,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, I love it. That's a great idea. Um, and we just never know. 'Cause and sometimes if they let you, sometimes they just need a hug. There have been a couple times when I just seen somebody and it's been even maybe a little bit of time has gone past and I will see them and just say, could you use a hug today? Oh, yes. Most of the time
Mhm.
they do say, yes,
Mhm.
I can. So
Mhm.
that physical touch when you can, if you're in that position to do that. So,
Mhm.
well, again, thank you everyone for being here. Thanks, Lynn, for sharing your heart with us today. And everybody remember that life's not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. And you have a choice of how you're going to respond to those around you. But choose to go out and make it a great day and give somebody a hug. This just makes me feel like I need to get out and give somebody a hug today. So yay! All right, now let me we're gonna sign ourselves out and we will see you next Tuesday. Take care, everybody.